Welcome engineers, my name is Travis IQ, and today we're talking the Facebook outage. What happened, what services were affected, why were they affected so long? Let's do it. So what happened? On Monday, October 4th, Facebook's services were completely lost to the internet for a period of 6 to 12 hours, depending upon which service you're talking about. But even the Facebook website itself wouldn't resolve for a full 6 hours, which is absolutely bananas. I use the term lost to the internet because I wanted to think about what could have happened and what actually did happen, right? So could there have an entire infrastructure have been wiped off the face of the planet? Yes, potentially, but that's not what happened, right? The physical infrastructure didn't just go places. It wasn't just poof, magically disappeared. What else could have happened? Their network stack and their software and hardware stacks could have failed catastrophically. That's pretty unlikely as well, with their content delivery network being distributed in all of these different places all over the world. It's probably very unlikely that that happened as well. So then what are we left with? We're not at software, we're not at hardware, we're not at physical devices. What we're left with is the infrastructure to get to Facebook, which would be the internet, right? And specifically BGP. So what actually happened was at 11:40 or so Eastern Standard Time, the Facebook series of Facebook routers had BGP changes made, and those BGP changes were advertised to the internet, which basically eliminated their routing paths to Facebook. The internet's routing path to Facebook, which effectively means that Facebook disappeared. This is a problem. What actually happened then is the route changes that were made then lock the engineers out because there's no path to them, and most of Facebook's engineering team is remote, especially these days. So now they can't get there remotely. Okay, their physical access cards aren't working, presumably because the access authentication was through Facebook's backend, which is now no longer existent. So they've got a real problem, which took them a very long time to sort out realistically when you think about how large a company that they are. Cloudflare wrote a great article with some content regarding the BGP route updates and how that evolved over time from Facebook. They also reported the DNS issue. And a lot of people were reporting a DNS issue where Facebook wasn't resolving to its associated IP addresses and IP address ranges. And it's interesting because some people initially reported this as the issue, right? That it was a DNS issue. And realistically, the DNS issue was actually a manifestation of the larger issue, which was the BGP routes to Facebook's entire infrastructure. So yes, the A records and the A records served to the DNS infrastructure were gone, but it was really a result of that infrastructure as well as the rest of Facebook's infrastructure being gone, which is an interesting thought. And we'll talk about BGP and DNS on this channel probably in subsequent videos as a result of this giant issue. But there is one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and that was some of the peripheral issues that this caused. Some knock-on effects is what we would call that, right? So DNS being an issue, what does that mean? It actually means that a lot of people were going out and trying to query Facebook. What does that mean? That means that there's more DNS queries, which means that there's more traffic, which can slow DNS servers down. Furthermore, automated utilities that are trying to get out to Facebook are going to, when they receive these serve failures, right, are also going to then request the DNS records subsequently more. So, you know, this is definitely an issue. So it resulted in some DNS denial of servicing and slowdown, but also the peripheral services that DNS also supports, that Facebook also supports, right, or that is a part of Facebook, things like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, were actually primary or are primary components of the infrastructure in some of these other developing nations and other nations and regions across the globe. And so some primary communication mechanisms and calling mechanisms went out across the globe as well as a result of this Facebook outage. So it's actually a pretty big deal. They are up and running now as of Friday in the same week, but it was a wild couple of days there, and a lot of people have addressed this issue and written some pretty interesting stuff. So I will link some more of that in the show notes below. We will talk about the technology, BGP and DNS, in subsequent videos. Keep an eye out for that. But as is always the case, even on news videos, engineer, break stuff, have fun. We'll see you next time.